never be a memory.
And what's going on, Read My Lips people? We are back. So, been gone a couple days. 3 days. About 2 or 3 days. As you can see, different background. Um, been busy with life. But I haven't forgot about you guys. And I'm back. And we got some stuff to talk about. There's been so much. In those 3 days, I kid you not, there's been so much Yang news that I literally can't even talk about it all. There was Evelyn Yang coming out about her assault. There was, pretty much information regarding Yang, that he has already qualified for the February debate. So much. But I'm sure you've all heard that news already. I don't need to reiterate, all that stuff. I will probably touch upon the February debate as it comes closer. Uh, but, for the time being, there's other things to talk about. So, Yang recently spoke to Vice News. And what he spoke to them about was uh, him joking around about it not being bad that he, jokes about Asians, being good at math. And I actually saw the Bill Maher, I can't even say his name right now, the Bill Maher interview with Andrew Yang. I actually didn't cover it. I'm not a fan of Bill Maher anymore. I feel like, and we all grow and we all change, but I feel like he's just a totally different person than he was some years ago. And I saw his interview on Joe Rogan, and he was just like saying things like just totally out, pulling shit out of his ass, like Amy Klobuchar would win. If Amy got through the primary, like, come on, let's just be honest. We'll all vote for Amy Klobuchar because most of America is centrist. Like, that's just totally wrong if you're being honest. Um, if you go down the list, most of America chooses actually progressive options, really left wing options. If we're being honest, just like presumptions, like Amy Klobuchar, like you couldn't force me to vote for Amy Klobuchar with a gun to my head. So like, what are you talking about? And then he had some like weird things regarding sex and like assuming like what women want and what women don't want. Just very fucking weird, right? Not a Bill Maher fan anymore. Um, Very seldomly he makes me laugh. Um, I don't think he gave Yang enough speaking time on his interview. Like literally, Yang kept having to tap him. Like Yang was trying to say something. Like Bill, like I got something to say. And Bill was just like going off on a tangent. Really fucking weird. All right, and that's coming right off of a good interview Yang just had with Colbert. So not a Bill Maher fan, but he went on there, and one of the things Yang had said, or what they were saying to each other, was about him being Asian and liking math, and it's not a bad thing. And I do know Yang has, I don't want to say taken heat, but I remember reading an article in the LA Times where like other prominent Asian figures and were trying to give him like a bit kind of like heat. They were trying to give him some like pushback on him joking about things like that and how it could put a negative light, a negative spin, uh, on Asians, and how it's not something to joke about. It's same scenarios if you're African American and you do stereotype jokes like about fucking chicken, or I don't fucking know, and how it could shine a bad light on the African American community. Like, get your head out of your ass. It's not that serious. But Yang decided to speak to Vice News about this. Um, you know, Pretty much saying, joking about Asians being good at math is not a bad thing. And we all know math is an acronym for Make America Think Harder. Um, but I'm going to just read you some of the things that Yang said. He says, making light of these stereotypes and dragging them into the light is not a bad thing. I always hate, like, when he speaks to these, like, I don't know, these newspapers and these articles, they always put, like, businessman Andrew Yang. Or it's just like, just say Andrew Yang. It's, like, weird when you put that in front of it. I don't know. It's just, it's kind of weird. Just say Andrew Yang or Democratic runner Andrew Yang or something along those lines. When you put businessman Andrew Yang, it's like I don't know, like that doesn't really describe him to me, like personally, but whatever. He said that Andrew Yang laments that he's one of the few Democrats of color still in the presidential race, but he also makes light of his heritage with jokes about how he's good at math and knows a lot of doctors. Now, to me, that's amusing, and I watch all sorts of fucking different variations of comedy from Chappelle to fucking South Park and Family Guy. I'm used to crude humor, so saying something like this, like it really doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. This is nothing, right? Um, but I guess some people would be bothered or triggered by this. By him saying he's good at math and knows a lot of doctors. Like if you're one of those people that this bothers, you got some stuff to work out in your life. This is like seriously. Yang goes on to say, making light of these stereotypes and dragging them into the light is not a bad thing. By poking fun at these things, we can actually see them for how ridiculous they are. But Vice goes on to say, but those comments have also contributed to him being somewhat polarizing figure among Asian Americans. Now, as you probably already know, I get a lot of Asian American subscribers, and they reached out to me, and from inboxes and DMs and in the comments, and I've yet to hear any one of them. And I mean, this is all anecdotal, but I've yet to hear any one of them say anything along these lines. Like Yang's given, Asian Americans a bad name, where he's making us look bad. But I haven't seen this personally. But like I said, I read the LA Times article, and I guess, he was being criticized by some. As a matter of fact, it goes on to say here, Yang has previously been criticized by some who say his comments reinforce the model minority stereotype, which broadly paints Asians as overachieving do-gooders and Latinos and African Americans as less deserving. You added that. Who said that? You made that up. That you just completely made that up. You decided to throw that in there, which broadly paints Asians as overachieving do-gooders and Latino and African Americans as less deserving. Where did that part come from? Who said that? Nobody said that. You said that. That's you saying that. You thought that. Nobody said that. That's just so weird. For his part, Yang said Monday, the model minority myth obscures the vast diversity in the Asian American community, and he doesn't think anyone believes his offhand remarks reflect the viewpoints of every Asian person. This Vice article also goes on to say, they note that, Yang in the December debate was talking about how he's the only person of color on the stage, which I really don't get. I don't do identity politics. That's not my thing. But I find it interesting that they brought it up during the December debate, but during the January debate, nothing but crickets. We're not gonna talk about that. We're not gonna talk about that. They only bring it up when it does them any good. When they're able to shine a positive light on themselves. But there's no way they were going to talk about it during this last debate that just passed, when the debate stage was pearly white. They just weren't going to talk about it. They weren't going to ask any of the candidates, like, isn't it kind of fucked up how there's no candidates of color on the stage? Like, they're not going to do that. So, the Vice article also brought up something about the Yang Gang, like having white supremacists in it. And I'm looking at myself right now. Where the fuck did they pull that up? Now, you gotta understand, a lot of these, people running these races, you're gonna have support of all kinds from just different subsets of people. So David Duke could fucking like you because he might like your fucking, where you stand on, infrastructure. You know what I'm saying? And he's a fucking racist, obviously. But, you really don't control that. I know Tulsi Gabbard had, certain groups that aren't great people, sort of looking at her. I think even, I think Yang had some. I think even Sanders might have had a couple. Obviously, Yang and Tulsi and Sanders, they don't fucking dig these people. Like, it's just even weird to bring up. It's just weird to bring up. And then they put so-called Yang Gang. How is it so-called? That's what it's called, the Yang Gang. It's not the so-called Yang Gang. It is the Yang Gang. Yang Gang, bitch. Like, what are you talking about? So it was just very, very weird how it's worded. People, when you read these articles, you can easily tell where they stand and how they feel about you. Easily. Just by their choice of wording. But Yang had commented on the white supremacy thing. He said, "I was stunned to hear that anyone who has any kind of hateful ideology in their hearts would support me, because I certainly don't look like the poster boy for white supremacy." Which is 100% true. But again, they're not. And I got to say this when I use a David Duke example. He could be supporting you because he likes where you stand on foreign policy. He likes where you stand on infrastructure. Not necessarily that he agrees with where you stand on dealing with race. But obviously, Yang doesn't fuck with white supremacists. So come on. And they say, when they were asking him questions with Vice, they just, again, you can tell by the wording, he pivoted. He didn't pivot. He was giving, that's his answer to the issues. They say he pivoted to universal basic income. It's not a pivot. It's what it is. The freedom dividend, which would dole out $1,000 a month. This is how they word it: to billionaires and poor people alike. While it wouldn't fix racism, it could lessen some of the economic fears that may fuel it, which is true. Bernie actually was speaking on this in an interview. I think it was with the New York Times. He was talking about, and he took a lot of heat for it, about like racism and how it can be cured, like how it can accrue up, and it has a lot to do with economic, fears, and he was 100% on the money. And obviously, that's not for every racist, but he was on the money about it, and he took a lot of. He looked. I think actually, Yang Gang, they tweeted me and were saying things like, "Bernie's starting to sound a lot like Yang in this." I think Bernie's sounding like Bernie. I don't think he's sounding like Yang. I think he's sounding like Bernie. It's just two things that both him and Yang agree on, which is dope. But Bernie took a lot of heat for that. And you can tell the person writing this article for Vice, they kind of not on Yang's side. Like, they're trying to maybe be fair, but the way they word things, you can tell, like, that ain't it, Chief. They're not for it. Which, ironically, the New York Times, not only did they not endorse Bernie, they didn't endorse Yang either. They tried to do, their endorsement's not worth shit. They tried to do a double endorsement. We endorse Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar. You're fucking weak. That's pathetic. First of all, that's not how it works. You choose one, and that's who you endorse. You don't get to endorse both of them. Like, what are you doing? So, it goes on to say, the freedom dividend, according to Yang's website, would have Americans choose between certain means-tested welfare programs and monthly cash. If your welfare program is giving you more than $1,000 a month, stick with it. If not, switch to the freedom dividend. Not really a big deal. And when people try to make a big deal out of that, I say you're nitpicking. They go on to say some scholars argue this sort of universal basic income would actually exacerbate the wealth gap. Yang pushed back on the assessment by saying, in a vacuum, a value-added tax does end up falling on people who are starting out with less money. His policy, however, would address this by ratcheting it up on things like artificial intelligence and yachts and luxury watches, on things like diaper and milk and toilet paper would be exempted. That would indeed, fix that gap that they're saying would be exacerbated because, yes, if you put that value-added tax on everyday things that everyday people would buy, that obviously would be no bueno. But when you put it on luxury stuff like yachts and, again, things that he mentioned, then that would help fix that problem. So it was just an interesting article. But the reason I decided to talk about this article was because I can't do the being so triggered by something like that because again, he was just on Bill Maher and I think Bill Maher was getting a little annoyed too. Did you guys see that? Like at the end, Yang was like, because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian guy that likes math. Bill Maher's like, yeah. Like, yeah. Like he got like annoyed by it. Like he didn't want to hear it. Like Bill Maher's such a shill at this point. But people like get so triggered by that. Look, I don't know, when it's comedy, when it's legit comedy, like I'd say it's almost all hands off. Like you can say and do fucking whatever. If the joke doesn't land well, it doesn't land well. But like if it's a joke, it gets I gotta say it gets a pass. Obviously there's places you can and can't joke. You gotta be careful in the workplace and stuff like that. But guys gotta stop being so fucking uptight and uppity and triggered so fucking easily. If a black comedian goes on stage and they do it all the fucking time, and they start making jokes about, I don't know, black people and chicken and watermelon and I don't know what the fuck, whatever. Chappelle's a good example. Like, you know what I mean? I don't get bothered by it. It doesn't bother me. So, Yang saying he's an Asian that likes math, like, it's not insisting that Latinos and African Americans are less or anything like that. Like, you're overthinking, and it's just really weird. So, yeah, I am back. Sorry for the 3-day absence. Again, life catches up to you. If you guys probably remember, but I had the car situation. 2020 has not been great, let me tell you. 2019 ended magnificently. I got to meet Yang, brought the New Year's in right, but 2020 has been rough. I had the car accident, still in a rental, mind you. The car still hasn't been fixed. It's been 2 weeks now? The car still hasn't been fixed. I'm in the middle of changing properties. So I'm not at the old place anymore, as you can see by the different background, because that property was sold. Losing friends, losing relationships with people that you had in 2019 that are no longer there in 2020. It's been like this, one after another. It's been crazy. So I just had to get adjusted and handle life things for the last 3 days. And I saw like so much Yang news coming out, but I couldn't tackle it. I couldn't get to it right away. But I'm back. Never fear. And I'll have more content for you coming soon. So if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. If you don't, let me know in the comment section why. I'm always down to talk about it. I have a Cash App, a PayPal, and a Venmo link in the description below. Please feel free to donate to read my lips. Any little bit helps and helps my channel grow. Ain't that right, RJ? Hopefully I'll be talking to you guys soon. Have a good one. Peace.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying